The Phoenician Origin of Britons, Scots and Anglo-Saxons, written by Lawrence Austin Waddell, presents a reinterpretation of early British history. In it, Waddell argues that the ancient inhabitants of Britain, Britons, Scots, and Anglo-Saxons, were either descended from or profoundly shaped by the Phoenicians. His central thesis rests on the idea that long-distance maritime contact in antiquity was far more extensive than conventionally accepted, allowing Phoenician culture to penetrate deep into the Atlantic world, including the British Isles. To support this claim, Waddell points to what he believed were Phoenician inscriptions discovered in Britain, arguing that these provide direct evidence of their presence. A key example he draws on is the Newton stone, which he interprets as bearing Phoenician or related script. He extends this approach to the analysis of pre-Roman British coins, claiming that their symbols and markings reflect Near Eastern, specifically Phoenician origins. Alongside this, he employs comparative linguistics, attempting to link early British languages with Phoenician and even Sumerians, suggesting a shared cultural and linguistic heritage that predates Indo-European dominance in the region. Waddell's argument asserts that the Phoenicians themselves were not Semitic in the conventional sense, but Aryan, and thus part of a broader ancestral lineage tied to European peoples. Within this framework, he portrays Phoenicians as foundational architects of early British civilization, bringing not only trade, but also religion and symbolism. He identifies elements such as sun worship, linking British traditions to deities like Baal, also rendered as Baal, and argues that such religious motifs were transmitted from the ancient Near East into Britain through Phoenician influence. Taken together, the book constructs a narrative of deep civilizational continuity between the ancient Near East and Britain, challenging mainstream historical timelines and migration models. Waddell's work remains a notable example of early 20th century alternative historiography, illustrating how linguistics and archaeological evidence can be combined to propose reinterpretations of the past narratives. 𝗖𝗆𝗱𝗏𝗏 is a prominent figure in historical linguistics. A professor emeritus at the Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich, he is best known for challenging the traditional internal explanations for how European languages evolved. Instead, he proposes that the linguistic and cultural landscape of prehistoric Europe was shaped by massive contact with Semitic, Atlantic, and Vasconic, Basque-related populations. The Atlantic Phoenician theory. Venman's most provocative hypothesis suggests that seafaring Phoenicians or Carthaginians established colonies along the Atlantic coast and into northern Germany during the first millennium BCE. He argues that these Semitic speakers didn't just trade. They acted as a superstrate that fundamentally altered the Germanic languages. According to Venman, this influence explains several unique features of Germanic that set it apart from other Indo-European branches, such as linguistic shifts. He attributes the first Germanic sound shift, Grimm's law, to the influence of a Semitic-speaking elite vocabulary. Venman identifies numerous Germanic words related to seafaring, agriculture, and social hierarchy that he claims have Semitic roots rather than Indo-European ones, the runic alphabet. He has even suggested that 𝗧𝗿𝗱𝗏𝗏 runes were not derived from italic scripts, as is commonly accepted, but were directly influenced by the Phoenician alphabet, the Vasconic substrate. To complement his Phoenician theory, Venman also proposed the Vasconic hypothesis. He argues that before the arrival of Indo-European speakers, much of Western and Central Europe was inhabited by people speaking languages related to modern Basque. He uses toponymy, the study of place names, specifically river names like the Isa or Isaac, to argue that a Vasconic layer exists beneath the modern European linguistic map. In conclusion, the works of Lawrence Austin Waddell and 𝗖𝗆𝗱𝗏𝗏 represent a significant lineage of thought that challenges the standard internal model of European development. by prioritizing the influence of seafaring Semitic and Phoenician populations. Both authors argue that the foundations of British and Germanic cultures were not purely indigenous or Indo-European, but were instead shaped by high-level contact with ancient Near Eastern and Mediterranean maritime powers. The synthesis of these theories points to three key themes: diffusion of culture. Both suggest that major cultural shifts, such as the adoption of the alphabet, runes, religious symbolism, sun worship and bowl, and linguistic sound shifts, Grimm's law, were not natural evolutions, but the result of a Phoenician or Semitic superstrate exerting influence over local populations. This perspective suggests that the Atlantic and North Sea regions were deeply integrated into Near Eastern trade and migratory networks far earlier than conventional timelines suggest. The power of toponymy and etymology. A cornerstone of this school of thought is the reinterpretation of the landscape. Whether through Venneman's Vasconic river names in Germany or Waddell's analysis of British stone inscriptions, both seek to find a reinterpretation of misinterpreted history etched into the names and monuments of Europe. Reinterpretation of ancient connectivity. Taken together, these works offer a structural alternative to standard historical timelines. They frame the prehistoric world as a highly mobile and interconnected space where maritime exchange acted as a catalyst for the linguistic and cultural shifts that define the early British and Germanic worlds. Ultimately, these theories represent an effort to reconstruct the past through the lens of globalized ancient exchange, challenging the degree to which early European civilizations are viewed as independent from the influence of Near Eastern maritime powers. They serve as a reminder that the history of human migration and cultural exchange is often more fluid and interconnected than traditional borders and timelines might suggest.